Welcome everyone to Growth Uncut, a podcast that really focuses on how we can upgrade justice through Justice 2.0. And I am so happy to be here today to talk to the lovely Lady Val. So we're just going to have a really great conversation. Every time I speak to Lady Val, we have a lovely conversation, and I just wanted to bottle it so other people could experience it and enjoy it. So would you like to just introduce yourself a little bit in terms of what you do within the justice space?
Right. Well, I came to the justice space actually quite late because I was a media person. I did features for national newspapers, magazines, BBC script writing, books, but I married a politician. Very difficult to marry a politician unless you get really involved in what he's doing. And when he died in 2012, I was very miserable, of course. A few weeks afterwards, I was sitting on the sofa looking at television, trying desperately to find something to distract myself. And I came across this golf competition, the Ryder Cup. Now, I don't play golf, and I have no interest in golf, but golf is the reason that I'm in prison reform. Because, as I say, I was desperate, but it was this competition between America and Europe won. And then the captain of the European team looked up in the sky and he dedicated his win to Seve Ballesteros, the Spanish golfer who'd recently died. And then he said these words: "All men die, but some men live on." And I sat up. This was my eureka moment, you know, the apple falling from the tree. And I thought, that's what I've got to do. I've got to make Robin's legacy live for the people he knew and the people who should know him. So I went to the Prison Reform Trust, with whom he'd worked very closely and with whom I work closely to this day. And we came up with the Robin Corbett Award for Prisoner Reintegration, which was an annual award presented at the House of Commons. And we give £10,000 to 3 charities or CRCs or whatever who do the most to help people from prison. That was in 2013. Then I kept on meeting people in the prison reform sector, all working in their own little pond. And I thought, should we not work in a sea? And so that in 2017 was when the Corbett Network for Prison Reintegration came into being, of which your organization is a very valued and I'm very proud to say a member. So that's how I got into prison reform.
I guess there's something for me about, in terms of you going into it, how has it been? Like, I appreciate you've been in it a while now, but how do you find working in prison reform? Because I think that's an interesting question for me to find out from you.
It's like the curate's egg. There's good and bad. Some of the good, let's concentrate on the good. The good things are that some prisons do amazing work. Amazing work. I was in Rochester Prison a few years ago and I went into their stonemasonry class. And I was in awe of what they had done. And they do it commercially. They do it for hotels and churches and so on. But there were only 12 doing it and getting skills. I was just, as I say, looking at them. I thought, why have they got 2 prison officers here? Well, of course, they've got the tools. So they've got to have always prison of staff. At the weekend, as one man said, I've got a skill, I can become a stonemason, but from Friday to Monday are so boring because the staff, it's a skeleton staff and nobody can do it. There were 60 on the waiting list.
Wow.
So frankly, they would have no hope of getting in. So those are the good things. The bad things are that prisons are understaffed, under-resourced. The probation officer has still not got over those disastrous grayling changes. Every chief inspector of prisons that we have on our Zooms for members, they all make the same recommendations, but nothing gets done. I can't see any change. I can see little changes. I think that they are trying to go from incarceration to more community services. Without a proper probation, it's difficult. Countries like Holland, as well, you know, they're closing prisons. We are building more. And I can't see that getting more warehouses to put people in, rather than trying to reduce the numbers in them, makes sense.
And what would you love to see in terms of seeing an upgrade, seeing that extra bit of hope? What would be something that would say to you, do you know what? We're making a difference here.
I think people should recognize the ADHD and the neurodiversity within prisons. If you got rid of them and got them specialist help, the prisons probably would be empty. We have awful IPP prisons, over 2,000 people with the indeterminate prisoners' sentences. They need to be freed, but they can't be freed without specialist mental health trauma help for them. There's a guy there, I always quote this because it's so disgusting. He was in prison, sentenced to 18 years for stealing a mobile phone, which, by the way, he gave back. But anyway, he stole it. He's been in there for 12 years. So when he comes out, is he going to be just a normal person? No. So there's that. We should have more specialist prisons like Grendel, who specialize in helping the addicted, which is absolutely endemic. The drugs, I'm not sure about the drug thing. My husband was on a select committee who did discussion about drugs, and they all went to Holland, which has got a very liberal type of thing. And they came back and said it doesn't work. There were sort of needles all over the place, and even the Dutch government has now, rolled back on that a bit. So maybe we need to talk about drugs as a government, but so I think people can change. I came into this business really with an experience called the Hoxton Apprentice. This was a restaurant in Hoxton Square where I was a volunteer director. I never get any money for the work I do. Robin always said, Corbett's do not work for money. We always work for love. Anyway, I then started the Lady Val Professional Women's Network there, called the Hoxton Apprentice. But the work there was training long-term unemployed, people below the radar, people who never worked, people who had no supportive parents, education, skills, whatever. And I witnessed miracles. I witnessed people can change. I witnessed a woman who walked around that square 4 times before she got the courage to come in. And she said to the coach woman, I've got 4 children. I've been so busy. I haven't got any skills. I haven't got any. So the woman said, the coach said, well, you had 4 children. It must mean some organization. Oh, yes, because one went in. She said, I think we can help you with that. I think you can help us with that. Within 6 months, that woman was head waiter. So I knew that people could change, and it stood me in such good stead when I went into the prison reform work. 50,000 people are released from UK prisons every year, but only 12% get support, Sarah. And without that support, they cannot manage. I mean, one of our members says that when they come out, they need 3 things. They need something to do, somewhere to live, and someone who gives a damn. And in my opinion, the last one is the most important.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And it's that belief, isn't it? That belief that someone can change, that just that shoulder, isn't it? To say, come on, you can do this. Like I can see, your strengths, or I can see your passions, or that organization. It took that woman to see past what she was saying to say, do you know what? You probably are quite organized, really. And I think the minute we can see strength in people, then I think that lights up things. And the minute they believe that, then magic can happen.
Well, I'm very proud to tell you this because, I've been doing these lunches in London for top professional women. And the profits from that has gone into something I've just started called the Founders Helping Hand. Because, all right, I do newsletters for members and I do Zooms with people from the prison reform sector and conference and all that. But I thought I want to do something more practical. So the Founders Helping Hand is giving small amounts of money to members for things like clothing vouchers, hygiene, groceries, travel, that sort of thing. And that's the profits from the women who have attended. So I'm really pleased that the two have interlinked like this.
Yeah, that's incredible. And in terms of the Corbett Network, talk us a little bit about what the Corbett Network is. Why should we join? I can talk about why I joined, but yeah, what is it about the Corbett Network?
Can't you answer that as a member?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I think there's something about the connection that the Corbett Network has in terms of the relationships there. I go to a lot of conferences, I go to a lot of networking events, and what I loved about the recent one that I went to is there's just something about the atmosphere. It's a really caring atmosphere. It's not a competitive atmosphere, but also the way in which they're organized is that they're structured. So I'm a bit of an introvert really and can get a bit shy about things. So having structure where you say, right, I want you to move tables, I want you to talk about these things, I want to talk about what you can offer and what other people can support you. I think that's the stuff that opens those conversations and enables you to really talk about the things that you're passionate about. So for me, I'd love to do more. I really, really valued the online session I went to around with women and just inspirational women. I think there's just something about the Corbett Network brings hope is always there. It's always there. So every time a newsletter comes through, every time a Zoom link comes through, even if I don't get to go to the Zoom meeting, I think there's just something about knowing that people are connecting, like-minded people are connecting, and that gives me hope. So that would be why I join.
I don't think I can add anything to it, except we are going to have another conference at the Leather Sellers Hall, which is just like Draper's Hall. Amazing, these delivery companies. So on the 29th of April, I hope I'll see you there. But the thing that I like about the Corbett Network is what you've just mentioned, the non-competitiveness. We're all in it together.
Yeah.
I know people have said that before, but really, things that you do, they're very tough. They are very tough. I mean, I've got one member who says, every time I do 3 steps forward with this person, then 9 steps back. And then we try again and we try again. But she said, when it works, when they've got what they need, mentoring, jobs, coaching, training, education, whatever, when it helps, when it works, she said, it's the best job in the world. And that kind of validation, I think, keeps you going. The reward keeps you going, even though it's really hard going sometimes. And I think I admire, I mean, I don't do the heavy lifting. So I admire every single member of the network, and we're coming up to about 195 now, with more joining, hopefully. Every time I kind of think about the day-to-day jobs that they do, I'm in awe. And because it isn't easy, and I don't think that the money is great. And the funding, as you know, is dire, has always died, but it's more dire than ever now. So, there's loads of hardships on the way, but they keep on keeping on. As I say, I got a lot of admiration.
And in terms of just what you've got there in terms of, I guess, it being difficult and you seeing it's difficult for your members, how do you keep going? What is it that keeps you involved in driving the Corbett Network and staying hopeful and staying positive? And
I'm not so hopeful and positive all the time, trust me. And I think it's my husband's legacy, of course, but more than that, I kind of feel that we are doing something. It may not be enough, it may be too small, but we're the only network in the country that have organizations joining us who are actually working at the coalface. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of many, many things. I'm proud of the people who've joined the Corbett Network. I'm proud that we can do the work together. What keeps me going, what keeps me coming out of bed is my goal to try to, like you, transform the criminal justice system. We're not going to be able to do it in our lifetimes, I don't think. You have to go on going on and trying. And I think that keeps me going. After all, what would I do if I didn't do that? I'd be sitting on a sofa popping grapes. So you can only do that for a little while.
I'm with you. And, I obviously have doubts, as you know, because I talked to you about them. But when things dip and when things are challenging, I think, like you said, just that question about what's the alternative. This stuff it's got so much joy, and like you see, when you see progress or when you see the growth of someone else, it's just absolutely wonderful, isn't it? But the darkness is certainly there, isn't it? Like the suffering. We work a lot with leaders within prisons and staff in prisons, as well as those that live in prison, and the families.
Victims, we never forget the victims. We never forget that the people we're helping have done harm, either to property or people or both. We never forget them. But, my husband always said, prison isn't full of bad people. It's full of people who've done bad things, and most need a chance to change. And Sarah, the one thing that I've not talked about, which I really want to change, is public perception. People who've been to prison, they've done bad things, they've served the time for the crime. So really, the slate should be wiped clean, but it's not. As you know, They can't get jobs. They've got this conviction which lasts forever. I know one of our members, Transform Justice, trying to get some limit on that. But we need people to understand that these are not subhuman people. They're just ordinary people who've done wrong. And now they need to clear the slate and move on. And the reason that we have the highest reoffending rates in Western Europe is because of that problem where people do not accept that these people have skills, they have talents. Okay, they've done wrong and they can't work in maybe certain fields, but they can do other things. People do not do that. When my husband went into the prison reform, he was chair of the all-party prison penal affairs group in the House. When he went in, his colleagues said to him, don't go near prisons. They are so unpopular. They'll do you harm and they will hurt your career. And of course, he didn't think about that because he was stubborn. I could have gone in another way because his private members bill, which is still law today, grants lifetime anonymity for rape victims in the courts and the media, which has lasted and is still prevalent today. So I could have gone that way, but that was a well-traveled path. So this is the way I wanted the prison reform way, because he was passionate about prison reform. And he corresponded with many, many prisoners, and we had some of them for lunch in our house and some things like that. So, and that was all without publicity. And so I thought, this is really what it's all about. We have to give the benefit of the damn doubt to somebody who wants to change and enable them to change. And I think the message that I want to leave with people, try to enable a person to change.
That's it. Just that opportunity, isn't it? And I guess knowing, I don't know, I still I know it's really difficult coming out of prison, but I think watching people go through it, and I think like you were saying, in terms of really feeling those kind of challenges, either through your members or through the stories that we have, it's so difficult, isn't it? And I think there's something about, it's not just about one opportunity, maybe it's about someone falling down and saying, come on, it's okay. What did we learn from that? How can we pick ourselves back up?
Let me talk to you about two people who actually did make it and have some light in this conversation. There was a guy, he was released from prison one very icy Christmas, and he had no money, no home, no future, nothing. But he had done an in-prison course on coding with our then member Code 4000. For some reason, I just don't know how, the Code 4000 CEO found out that a bank needed a coder, and he got there and aced the interview, got the job, is still working there, and I found out last month he's just been promoted. Within 6 months, that bank phoned and said, have you got any more like him?
Wow.
So that's one. And the second thing is this guy, I can't believe this, he's been in prison for 10 times. But he went to this equine course, and I went and saw it, and I walked into this classroom where people were sitting there. Most of them, all of them had never been near a horse, but they had two guys facilitating this. And I said to the guy, who are they? They're jockeys. And then they went from the theory, they went to the horse. I followed them, and they were taught how to breed horse. Well, this man went through this. He's now in a livery stable very far away, and he's looking after a horse that's worth 80 million pounds. He's a previous Derby winner. So this man, I've got a photograph of him, and I tell you now, I want someone to look at me like that man is looking at the horse. It's just beautiful to see. And now he will never re-offend. That's rather extreme, but we have to support people in prison far more than we are now.
And like you say, it's that public awareness, isn't it? And I think there's something about, which is what the Corbett Network does, is about celebrating when things do happen, sharing the stories like you have just now. A lot of the time, your Daily Mails, your tabloid papers, they just demonize and shame. And I think there's just something about, it's emotive, isn't it? Penal reform, prison reform is an emotional thing. It's emotional for us. It's emotional for the people that are involved in it. It's emotional for victims. And for me, there's something about, we need to respond emotionally to this, because this is about humans, isn't it? And people being let down, and people struggling.
And of course, some people are almost predicated from birth to go to prison. This custodial manager said to me, if I induct 10 people, 10 guys, most of them will have been in care. Most of them will not have been able to read properly or have any education, never had a job, have substance abuse problems, and most of them will have tried to commit suicide. Now, with that kind of background, I'm very sorry to say, what hope is there for them? We have this huge equality in this country and in the world between the haves and the have-nots. And I don't see anything changing in that, I'm afraid.
Yeah. My last question is just around, I guess, the future for you. So the future in terms of the Corbett Network, but if you had a bucket list, a wish list, what would you like to see in the next few years?
I would like the Ministry of Justice to acknowledge that if people like us didn't exist, they would have to probably disband. They could not manage without us. So in that recognition, I would like them to say, do you know what? We can give you funding. We can give you funding because funding is the key. I have a project now that I'm working on, a resettlement project, which means that if we get a lot of money, we can give the money not to the Corbett Network, but to our members so that they can employ more people, so they can take on more people to help, and therefore bring down the higher cost of reoffending, which is over 18 billion pounds every year. And knowing that each prisoner costs us nearly 53,000 pounds, each prisoner every year, and they're over 92,000 people in prison at the moment. I mean, do the sums. It's madness what that money could do for the NHS, etc. So that's my goal. My goal is to say funding.
Lovely. And if people would love to join the Corbett Network and say, wow, or nominate someone for an award, how do they get in touch with you, Lady Val?
Well, donations. Very happy for the Founders Helping Hand. Very happy about that. Yeah, absolutely. Just contact me. We'd love to help you in any way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
As always, Sarah, we are kindred spirits.
Thanks so much. All the best.
Thanks a lot.